Oh, it's me. It is. It's me. Let's just hope we are live. Always takes a little while for things to come through. So let's go to email and see if I have got a notification. Not yet. Not got a notification yet. Hello, Nora. I was just remembering that what I haven't done is posted my thing. Hello, Audrey. So it's raining. Just saying, it's raining because it's August and we're in the UK. Anyway, I don't know why I'm panicking whether it's live or not, because you're here, so it must be live. So I hope you are both well. I'm playing with sale-a-bration items again because they're free, and that kind of makes me happy. So yeah, dahlias today, delicate dahlias, which if I had, hello Suzanne, if I had to pay money for it, would I buy it? I don't know. I really don't know, but I haven't seen many samples with it yet. And what I want to do today is a bit of an experiment, which is why I say there's a test for us today. I will explain a little more about the experiment when more people are with us. But in the meantime, I'm going to enjoy my cup of tea, which is Melbourne breakfast again, because I'm loving Melbourne breakfast tea from T2 in my cat mug. Can you see my cat mug? Because it's covered in cats. It's gorgeous. I was so pleased when they brought it out. But yeah. Morning, Charlotte from Alberta. So yeah, we are stuck in a jet stream at the moment with 2 lows, which is never good. 1 low is bad enough, but 2 is just not great. But it does mean that therefore we have got a particularly poor couple of weeks of weather. Hello, Sherry from Oregon. Yes, it's morning for all of you North Americans. Hello, Claire. Thank you. Just gone through. Using your new iPad. Your first iPad. Wow. Hello, Jessie from a very wet Florida. I gathered it was wet, and I gather you've got... Oh, yes, there's a message gone through to me as well. Thank you, Audrey. Morning, Steffi. But, yes, it's not great weather, really, at the moment. And it's not even warm. I'm here in a pair of shorts. I mean, they're long shorts, but really. Wet with you in Ireland as well, is it, Nora? 7 a.m. with Sherry. That's quite early, although having said that, I was up at about 6 o'clock this morning. I normally get up about that sort of time, depending on what my day is. I was having my hair done first thing, and because it was going to involve foils and dye, it was about 2.5 hours. So I needed to get some work done before then, because this is, surprisingly, this is not my natural colour. No, I'll rephrase that. If I was about 30 years younger, this would be my natural colour. As it is, it's not. But I guess you all knew that. Tea. Oh. So, delicate dahlias and an experiment. So, the experiment is, or test is, this is a distinctive stamp set. It's photopolymer, but it is distinctive. It's also 2-step stamping. She says, just checking that it is. Yes, it is 2-step stamping. Hi, Janice from sunny Ontario. Don't know that I like people who are anywhere sunny at the moment. Oh, please do, Claire. Yes. Do email me. Yes. That would be great if you would like to join. I have to say I've had 2 recruits already, and it's only the 5th of August. One was someone who I met through doing YouTube lives, who had been a demo before, and I have to say one was a previous team member who dropped and has rejoined, but they are still 2. I'm perfectly happy with that. But yes, absolutely, drop me an email. I can go through it with you. It's really easy. I can go through what is entailed. Be delighted to, Claire. So, Delicate Dahlias, it's two-step stamping, but it's got an outline as well as the infill. So I'm thinking it would be really interesting to see the difference between just doing the outline stamp and colouring it with blends, and doing the outline stamp and then using the two-step bit. Hello, Sherry from Vermont. And then just using the Fluid 100 watercolour paper, using the two-step stamp, so just the full stamp, and then a water brush and seeing what happens. And it's quite interesting. I did test that. And I've also got a little tip for you about using the watercolour paper, which I will do last. So if you want the tip on using watercolour paper, and it does make quite a big difference, I will keep you hanging. Hello, Linda from Melbourne. Ooh, how are things in Melbourne at the moment? Are you still in lockdown? We are surprisingly, our infection rate is dropping, and the hospitalisation rate is not high by comparison to what it has been, and the death rate by comparison to what it has been is not high. So yeah. Anyway, time to flip down. That was weird. Why did that happen? Something. Ooh. Oh, I know why that's happened. It's fine. I have a news feed that comes up often, whether I want it or not. Oh, good. I'm so pleased you've been using it and you like it. As I say, I don't know. I'm going to be honest. I am always honest, probably too honest. I don't know if I would have actually paid money for it. So it's going to be interesting. Right, I have already stamped in preparation back in lockdown from 8 p.m. last night. Oh, but your numbers down in Oz are so much better than ours. I've already stamped this in Memento because I like to make sure that the ink is fully dry before I use my blends. It's great with blends. It's absolutely perfect for blends. But if you use it when you've only literally just stamped, particularly as at the moment it's not warm here, and as I say, I'm wearing shorts and my feet are very cold, I wouldn't want to stamp instantly after, or colour rather, instantly after stamping. Now I'm using polished pink and evening evergreen the whole way through, both ink and blends, so that we get a consistent result. This is my theory. So this is going to take a wee while, but actually it's going to take a lot less time if I use the end I meant to use. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go round the outside, and so, you know, the edge, and then I'm going to use the brush tip to colour in. This is quite bright when it first goes on. Just saying. And also, dare I say, I have dahlias in my garden, and I'm going to use have on the basis that things may change, because at the moment I had three. I planted 3 dahlias last year, and one of them failed almost instantly. We've got quite a lot of clay in that particular bed, so it's not ideal for dahlias. But one failed almost instantly, and the other 2 were fine. They were a bit leggy, but they were fine. I don't think I've got them in exactly the right place. I think I've got them too far back in a slightly too shady part of the garden. But I'm going to be doing quite a lot of changes to the garden over the winter. More of that, no doubt, in future YouTube lives. Me blethering on about stuff. Anyway, I thought I'd lost them because we had a very cold, very wet spring. I seem to be having a very cold, very wet summer. And I thought I'd lost them. And then one of them poked their head up. I'd put a stake in so that I knew where they were. And it poked its head up, and the snails have eaten it. Looking forward to seeing you work with the stamp. Fair enough. You weren't very impressed when you saw it in the catalogue, so this video may absolutely, Janice, it may. Becky is on from Magnolia Ohio. Looking forward to take you. Ha! You failed. Oh, thanks for that, Becky. I'm hoping I won't. I mean, I'm not doing a particularly stunning design because what I'm looking at is how to colour it and different ways of colouring it rather than a stunning design. So I'm going to use the same design for each of the cards, and I'm going to use basically the same of everything other than I will be using the watercolor fluid 100 paper for the watercolor version, but other than that everything is going to be basically the same, as near to the same as it can be. Now, as I said, this goes on really Barbie pink, but it fades back, it dries back to a much nicer colour, because that is really Barbie pink otherwise. And to fill in the large expanse, I'm just going to come in with the brush tip, and I'm then going to come in with the dark blend to see if I can get some shading in. It's just a quicker way of doing it if you fill the background first. There's a whole discussion, and it doesn't matter whether you're talking about pro markers or what, you know, Copic markers. There's a whole discussion about alcohol pens and whether you should put the lighter colour down first and then bring the darker over the top and then blend with the light, or what. So who knows, frankly. I think they each come up with a different result. I think the temperature you're working in changes the result depending on what you do. I think there are quite a few movables, but I find for something like this where you've got a large expanse, it does work quite well to do a whole background. Now, when I did my sunflower a few weeks back, and I know I didn't do the follow-up on how I did it, but what I did was I didn't do adjacent petals because the colouring was very subtle, and it was no line colouring. I'm not going to be as concerned with this. This is going to be much more slapdash, in a good way. Slapdash, you know, slapdash is not always bad. But what I'm going to do is have this kind of open as well, so that I can come in and do the blending before the dark has completely dried, because you'll get a better blend that way. You won't get such an exaggerated line, and I think that is more of a key than whether or not you put your dark down first or second. Because I've had my hair cut, it's of course all the little bits. I have to have a lot of bulk taken out of my hair. It is incredibly thick, as in there's a lot of it. It's not thick hair, it's the hairs are very fine, but the quantity is quite a lot. So whenever my hairdresser comes, and bless her, she comes to me, she says, "What are we doing today?" And I said, "Take the weight out every time." I'm going to have it cut about every 7 weeks. And every time it's take the weight out. Don't care about the rest of it much, but take the weight out, because it's just, there's just so much of it. Which was actually a real plus, because when I was having the joys of chemo and was cold capping, the fact that I started with a lot of hair probably helped. So I did end up with quite a lot of hair still left after I finished chemo. Even though I was doing it for 6 months, and for quite a lot of that I was having it every week, which was fairly dreadful, but hey. Anyway, it's worked its magic touching wood hard, so I don't care. I can look back on it now. You're all being very quiet. I'm sure you're all just watching and taking it in, but you're all being very quiet today, which is fine because I'm not having to look up. Hello, Jan. So we've got just noticing that a few of my team are on. We've got quite a lot of stuff going on in the team at the moment. So we've got this week, at the end of this week, is the close for, we're doing team swaps for the new catalogue stuff. So, and there's been a sudden flurry of activity on the sign-up sheet for that, which is great. I was beginning to get a bit worried, and then I started getting messages about people signing up, so that was excellent. We've got quite a few categories for people to have a go at. They don't have to do all of them, they can do whichever ones they want, so that it can be as simple as a stamp, ink and paper card, no embellishment, no nothing. I think I even said no blends, I can't remember now, but a really straightforward, simple, you don't have to have a lot of product card, and all the way through to fancy folds, double embossing, so dry embossing and heat embossing on the same card. And yeah, and the reason I'm remembering is because Jan is doing some of the sorting out for me, which is jolly kind of a hello Pam, hello Bobby from Idaho. So for those of you who have just joined, we are using the Delicate Dahlias from the sale-a-bration catalogue, and I'm doing 3 different colouring techniques to see what the difference is, and just to see, you know, give people an idea of what the difference is depending on the technique that you use. So this obviously is using blends, because I'm using blends, and we've almost got to where we started from. In fact, I think we have. So I started by putting down a layer of the light polished pink, then I'm adding dark polished pink, and then as I go, colouring that with light polished pink over the top, just to get a decent blend. It's quite a lazy way of doing blends work, because it's just a bit kind of slapdash, but that's never a bad thing. Sometimes you need to do quick things. I've got to make a 90th birthday card, which is going to have to be quite quick because it's on Saturday, and I haven't done it yet. Right, so that's my flower. Let me bring it up so you can see it. I'm going to very quickly do the leaves, but the flower is obviously the main thing. But again, I'm going to colour with the dark, and I was toying between using soft succulent and evening evergreen on the basis that these are in colours, they kind of work together, and I looked at what the snails have kindly left of my dahlia, and it was dark, so I've gone for evening evergreen. If we had garden green blends, I think these would probably be a better green, but we don't. So I'm using evening evergreen. But again, I'm doing a really rough colour because I am going to then blend over the top. And what I will do is I'll do all the colouring and then I'll put them all together so that you see the finished result pretty much in one go. And then you can judge which one is your favourite. And I would expect different people to have a different preferred choice. Preferred choice? That doesn't really work. Preference is probably the word I'm looking for. I'm actually going to come in with the brush tip and finish that off because that will be quicker. And this is only the first layer anyway, so we can be a bit slapdash. What's quite nice about the weather not being quite as hot as it was, we did have 2 or 3 days of really hot weather, and yesterday actually was a really nice day. It was hotter than it was meant to be. Hubby and I had date night on the patio, supping a gin and tonic, although at the moment, because he's on painkillers, he's not allowed to have alcoholic gin. But we found quite a nice non-alcoholic gin, so, oh, slightly runny nose. Hay fever, joy. But yes, when it was very hot, the alcohol in the blends was really runny, and I don't think it was particularly easy to use. I don't know what the rest of you think when you're trying to use alcohol markers in hot weather, but I find it really tricky because the alcohol runs a lot in hot weather, which means it runs is really what I'm trying to say. Bleeds, that's the word I'm looking for. It's much more prone to bleeding, which is not always a good thing. Actually, I'm going to use the bullet tip because using the full is putting almost too much ink down. So you can tell I haven't done this before. I literally got this out to do just earlier this afternoon. I knew what I wanted to do, but all I did in preparation was stamp for this because I just wanted to know that the memento was properly dry. Right, so just the other set of leaves. Set of leaves. Actually, I'll do all of them together because it is quite cool, so it's not drying too quickly. But really quick colouring. Right, so that's that one done. I probably will add a piece of ribbon here. I've got it ready just in case, but that's basically done. So I'm going to pop that to one side, blow my nose, turn my back to just blow my nose a bit. Fortunately, because you're at the end of a camera, we have no germ issue. Have another sup of tea and then we're going to do the next one. Now the next one is probably the quickest. Famous last words. So a piece of white card. It is basic white. I'm going to ink up the outline again with memento. I think I might need to re-ink my memento, but it's going to be fine for this. This just fits on a D block. It is very tight on a D block, but it does just fit on a D block. Right, I'm going to try as much as I can to literally have it the same. And I think that is the same way up and about the same spacing. I should probably have used the stamping mat. No, got away with it. So that's all right. Phew. Right, so now I need the leaves, which I've just kind of tucked in. So I tucked one in here, and because it's photopolymer you can see through, especially if you haven't got a camera in the way. Just saying. And then ink it up again. Lazy inking, doing it in mid-air, and this is going to tuck in here. So that's that, and then we just need our sentiment. Thank you kindly. So that's going to go down there. Right, okay, so let's pop that to one side. Actually, oh yes, I do need it again because I'm going to need it for the sentiment. Right, I'm very quickly just going to clean my stamps so that I don't end up with an accident by putting my hand into memento ink, which is never a good idea. Right, okay. It also, ooh, bash my light, also gives the memento a little time to dry. And this is polished pink. I'm going to move that out of the way because it's beginning to irritate me a little. Now, what I do need to work out is which way up is. Right, so it's there. That is how I'm going to stamp. Yep. Right, so ink this up and find some places to line up. Having the camera where it is never the best place. I think that's about it. Hello, Leslie. So that's that. It's a little off, but not too bad. So that's that. Then this is going to be really quick, this one, which is why I thought I'd put it in the middle so that you didn't think I was going to spend all afternoon doing this, or morning, depending on where you are. Now this is a little harder to see through because it's a dark ink, but I can just about see where the outline is, which is there, and there. So those are our first two, so blends and two-step stamping. Okay, so those are the first two. Now we are going to be looking at watercolor. Now this is Fluid 100 card, and I'm going to keep you in suspense as to what my tip is. But one side is smoother than the other. I'm having the smooth side up. So all of these bits of card are cut to 5.5 by 3 3/4, just so you know. And again, I'm going to try and have this more or less in the same position. So ink it up again, and I'm going to do the flower and then stop and play with it a bit and then do the leaves, only, but well, you'll find out why in a moment. So stamp that down, close that up, and I might, is that going to come up with it? No, it's not. Okay, I was going to see if I could stamp it using the piercing mat, which might have been better. So this is what we have got, which actually looks really quite nice on its own. So I'm now going to spoil it. Hello Maisie, hello Jan from Tennessee. So let's clean that off. Polish pink is not one of those pinks that stains your stamp, but I still like to clean my stamps. I mean, it does a little, but not badly. So I've got one of our water pens, water brushes, one of these anyway. And I've filled it up, so I'm going to just move the ink around a little. Now, the key to this is to not get your pen, for want of a better word, overloaded with ink, because if you do, it's going to spoil the shading. So do any of you remember magic painting? So when I was a kid, and I was never a kid, when I was a child, if I was ill, one of my grandmothers would send me a "I hope you get better soon" pack. And she would always aim it for about 3 years younger than we actually were, because she sent them to my brother as well, because, you know, she was fair like that. And one of the things we often got was magic painting books, where you took a damp paintbrush and you coloured, and there was ink impregnated into the paper, so it would then release the colour. Very clever. I don't know if they're still made. Anyway, that is basically what we're doing here. But what you don't want is to pick up too much colour, because then it'll spoil the shading. But this is really quick. And I will show you the difference in a minute. Well, actually, it'll be obvious because I'll do half and then I'll show it to you, and then I'll do the other half. And it'll be more obvious when I do the leaves, because there'll be one that is and one that isn't. You do remember, Leslie? Yeah. I mean, I'm going back to the 60s. They were probably after that as well, but I specifically remember I had really bad tonsils as a child. I had them out when I was about 4 or 5. And used to get really, really bad earaches. I missed most of the first year of my school education because I was off with these appalling earaches that were caused by my tonsils. And I remember distinctly one time being unwell, really unwell. I mean, I can remember the nightmares I had with the fever. And we didn't know whether I had mumps, which my brother had, or whether it was just another of my inevitable ear infections. But I remember that particular time, and I was about 4. Always used to put on too much water, yeah. And then there was no colour left, and B, it would go through the paper, because it was very cheap paper. But they were such fun. So here, get a bit more water going. So I will pick this up in a moment and show you the difference between the two halves, and it is quite striking. I mean, I am very close to it, obviously, but it is quite striking, the difference. And it's actually, there's not so much shading that it's passing the colour across. So let me bring that up. Let me just make sure that I've got it where you can see it. So can you, I'm hoping you can see, this is the unpainted side and this is the painted side. So I'm hoping you can see the difference. But close to, you can still get them, Jan, good. I had a problem of too wet stamp pad when I was doing the fill stamp. Yeah, so Suzanne, when you first get your stamp pads, and obviously if it's an in colour stamp, you know, you'll be, well, I say obviously, they're the ones that for me are the newest. If you find that they're too wet, yes, obviously push the ink down, but then store them the wrong way up for a bit, because then the ink will sink. Because when you store them like this, as we all know, one of the joys of stamping up ink pads is that they're held upside down. But if you find that it's too wet, I've seen people get a piece of kitchen paper and splodge onto it, which I just think is such a waste of ink. But if you store it upside down for a day, you'll find that there'll be much less ink on the surface of the stamp, of the pad. So try that too. You can see the difference, very subtle but still noticeable. Absolutely, it is very subtle, but you do get that whole no line watercolouring. It's just, if you want no line watercolouring, this is so easy. I mean, it may not be a style that you particularly like. It may not be a colour you particularly like, but I wanted to choose a colour that I knew would be dark enough that you could see it, and that had blends as well. So polished pink seemed like a plan, really. I don't know whether you get pink dahlias in my garden, as I say. You don't get dahlias at all, because the snails get them first. Good, Suzanne, I'm glad you'll give it a try. I mean, as I say, it's horses for courses, and I think it's going to be interesting to see at the end which version everybody likes most. Now, I will accept that this only has the colour, and having the memento as well means it's not a true comparison, but I think it's near enough that it's a sort of true comparison. What's really good about this is it just gets rid of that pixelation. So the distinctive stamps are done by pixelation, so like newspaper photos. So it just subtly gets rid of that. Now, a lot of people have said that the water brushes, or whatever we're calling them this week, don't have the run of water that the aqua painters had. They're right, they don't. I have to say, personally, I found that the aqua painters were too wet. I think these may have gone slightly in the opposite direction, but I do prefer them. But for this, they're perfect because they're not running too much. So I can, when I want, just squeeze a little bit more, and it will bring that out. The only thing you have to remember with these water painters is they unscrew the wrong way round. So you have to pretend you're screwing them up to unscrew them. The thread's the wrong way round. Right, I'm just titivating now, so let's clean my brush. And it's perfectly easy to do on a chamois. Right, so what do we have? Janice, I think you have convinced me that you need the stamp. Good! Your granddad had all the colours of dahlias, even very dark purple. Okay, interesting. Hi, Heidi. In Australia. Oh, I love the koala icon. That's really good. Emoji, that's the word I'm looking for. Anyway, so it softens a bit as it dries, but that's the pink. So let's now be rash and put on the evening evergreen. I think this might be a bit dark, but as I say, this is an experiment, so we're going to keep scientific. And right, so where am I going? I'm going in there. So I want these to be as near identical as I can get them from a layout point of view. And then this one comes in there. Now, because this is just the infill, not the outline, the stalk is not quite as long. We will be able to deal with that. So that's evening evergreen. And again, I'm going to colour, splodge some water across them. Just make sure I've got the pink off. I have. Just get the water running a little bit. And interesting. I have tried this with the pink, with the dahlia, just very quickly with the smaller of the floral images, and it worked beautifully. I haven't done it with the green, so this is a bit of an experiment for me as well, but so far I am liking this. And we can then of course bring some of that colour down, but if we need to pick up more colour, we can pick up colour from the ink pad. And I do mean literally from the ink pad. Ooh, I like this. This actually is a better colour for dahlias than just using the ink. Once you spread it out a bit, it's a much better green. Woo! So this is definitely going to be very much. Good grief. Once upon a time my grammar was quite good. I sent a text to a friend of my late father's earlier in the week, and then copied it to my brother so that he knew what I had sent, because it was all to do with stuff following my father passing away. And I suddenly realised that the grammar was appalling. I'd started a sentence, got distracted, went back and forgot where I was in the sentence, and rather than reading it back and thinking, oh yes, I was going to say X, I sort of scan read it and thought I was going to say Y, and therefore it was appalling grammar. But anyway, hey ho, such is life. My grammar does seem to have deteriorated a little. And I know the spoken word is always going to be a little less grammatically correct than written, but who knows. I'm guessing you could use the blender pen as well. You probably could. I was going to. Oh, that's a thought. I thought I had ordered some more blender pens. Ooh. I'll have to check my orders. I thought I ordered some more blender pens, and I've had my orders and no blender pens. Oh well, I will check back. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I thought about getting blender pens and forgot. Yeah, my blender pens at the moment are dry. So yes, you could. I think if I was using blender pens, I wouldn't use the watercolour paper. I think I would use it straight onto basic white. What you would need to be careful of is not to pill the paper. I don't tend to use the blender pens on watercolour paper. So, I don't know. Anyway, that is that. So that is the finished result. It is quite stark against the two. Punctuation grammar is a bugbear, man. Hubby is the worst for not using commas and full stops. Oh, absolutely. Right, so that's fine, Janice. Right, I need to actually clean up an ink pad. So, on the basis that this side is covered in black ink, I will use this for the evening evergreen. Right, and I need to put the sentiment on, and then I'm going to give you, while I put the cards together, I will talk to you about my top tip with Fluid 100 cold press watercolour paper. Now, the first thing to say is that it's not white. Watercolour paper, there are only a very few that are white as opposed to not cream. You can probably see that this is not white just from the colour against the grid paper. Personally, I have a bit of an issue with the Fluid 100. I like it, but my issue is it's too rough, which means that stamping on it is equally a bit hit and miss because it's got too much of a texture. It, excuse me. Oh, tea. One side is smoother than the other, but it is still quite rough because it's cold press. And that's all to do with the manufacturing process. But because it's cold press, it is quite, for want of a better word, fluffy. It's got a definite texture. However, if you run it through your stamping, cut and emboss machine with the less fluffy side up, so your sandwich will be base plate, thin die adapter, cutting plate, Fluid 100, smooth side up, cutting plate. If you feed it through your cut and emboss machine, it actually makes it really quite smooth. Just saying. Now, if your cutting plate is a little grubby, I would suggest putting a piece of copy paper between your Fluid 100 and your cutting plate. I tend to use the same cutting plate for cutting all the time, and then I have a clean, in inverted commas, plate on top. So I didn't put photocopying paper over the top, and I would urge you to use a piece of white, as in not printed photocopy paper, just in case the print moves across. Now for this I'm going to use liquid glue because it's watercolour, and sealed is not great on watercolour paper. So yes, I'm staggered by the difference. Oops. Let's just stick it to one piece of polished pink, shall we? So I think I am going to add the ribbon that I was talking about earlier. Oh, I'd be even happier if that was square. That's better. So I've got some polished pink ribbon here. I've got a short piece. Is that going to be long enough to do two? Yes! Result. So yes, I'm going to go polished pink, and a bit more polished pink. So anyway, yes, so try that. If you do find that the watercolour paper is a little bit fluffy for what you want to do, then do try running it through your stamping, cut and emboss machine. I find it really makes a difference. I mean, seriously makes a difference. So give it a whirl. You may want to start with just a small piece. I mean, you always end up with offcuts with Fluid white because it's a funny size. I mean, it's not, it's 5 by 7, but as I do 5.5 by 3 3/4 quite a lot, it's a funny size. But the small pieces are very good for sentiments. So if you want to layer a sentiment, then it works really well for layering the sentiments, because what you don't want to do, and I will show you, is No, that's not what I wanted to bring out. This is what I wanted. I would not do that. I wouldn't stamp on basic white and put it over here. I would use another piece of watercolour paper because it's not white and it's equally not cream. Cream is probably closer, or vanilla rather is closer, but I definitely wouldn't go white. But you do end up with those annoying little pieces, so keep them and they will be serving a purpose. Right, let's cut my other length while I've got one length already cut. And I'm not going to do any more than just put a piece of ribbon on. I'm not going to tie a fake knot or anything. I'm just going to have the ribbon. So the ribbon is going to be in slightly different places by the look of it, but that's fine. So all I'm doing here is putting it on and then lining up so that I've got grid lines that I can follow. This is actually a little bit longer than I really need, but that's fine. So again, you can use Seal or Seal Plus. Seal Plus probably would be my preferred, but I just happen to have Seal to hand. I might put Seal Plus over the top of it to keep it in place. And the last one, so this is the blends. And then all I'm going to do is put it on a basic white card base. Actually, I think it might be Whisper White because I got more of the thick, I had more of the thick Whisper White to use up than I did the basic white. The thin, rather. You know what I mean. Right, so card bases. 3 card bases. I will need that again. So let's just fold those. I definitely had one of these. Thank you, Leslie. And it's what? I mean, bearing in mind I waffled for a while. They've taken me half an hour so far, if we exclude waffle time at the beginning. So really quick to use. Even the blends one wasn't that long. Possibly because I then did the 2-step. That was very quick, obviously. So I'm going to put some Seal Plus over the top of the ribbon. I just like that sandwich so that it is, I'd be even more happy if it was, or happier even, if it came out. That's a strip. And then I'll just use liquid adhesive. I was going to say for speed, looks like I need a new one of these, but that's fine. Hopefully it will last till the end of this live. She says, fingers firmly crossed. So that is the blends. Straight is optional. Yep. So that's the blends. I'll bring them all back in a moment. This is the watercolour. Oh. So let's hopefully have enough glue. Oh, come along. Don't need much, fortunately. So this is the watercolour one, so the no line watercolouring. And finally, way up, this is the 2-step. Yes. I have found that going at an angle, you're less likely to have a break in the Seal Plus. It's less likely to not like to go on the ribbon for some reason. I'm sure there's some physics explanation. Right. Note to self, get out a new liquid glue. Just press that, pop that in the bin. In the bin. Right, okay, so let's do these in the order in which I did them. So that was that way. Make sure that they are visible even with the picture in picture. Yes, they are. So we've got blends. So I'll bring that up so that you can see it close to. So this is the blends. I mean, it's not perfect to see it on camera, but that's the blends. This is the two-step. From here it is quite pixelated. I don't know, it depends on the size of your screen as to how it looks for you. And then this is the no-line watercolouring. I love the leaves of that. I'm not convinced by the flower. Just saying. So the question is, which one is your favourite? And on that note, I shall tidy away some of my bits while you let me know which your favourite is. So is it 1, 2 or 3? 1, 2, 3. And as I say, I have no preconceived ideas on this. I just thought it would be interesting to see different colouring techniques, particularly with a two-step stamp, and particularly with a stamp that I really wasn't sure about. I think it's actually quite nice as a stamp set. Now that I've seen it in action. The sentiments are the one that I've used, thank you kindly. Then oh-so happy for you. You inspire me, and sending heartfelt sympathy. So we have got Pam likes this one, Audrey likes this one, Steffi is this one, Claire is this one, Suzanne is that, Jan is that, Leslie is this, and Janice is this one. So quite a good spread actually, quite a few of you. Okay, Bobby is 3, 2, 1. Yeah, the leaves on this one are stunning. Number 2 for Judith. Hello Judith, I didn't see you join. Absolutely. So we're using exactly the same colours. This is all evergreen, evening evergreen, and polished pink. You like this one, but with these leaves. Yeah, that would actually be a really good combination. Mary Lou is this one. But I think it is quite an interesting comparison. I will do close-ups for these for my website. It's going to be probably Monday that this goes live on my website. But I will do close-ups so you can have a proper look. But I think it's really interesting how using the same colours gets you a different result. This is obviously a little creamer because, so one of the reasons I put the polished pink matte on was so that I didn't have this against the white, because that jars with me. It's just not, for me, it's just not a pleasant look. But put pink between the two and it kind of smooths it out a bit. But I think it is quite an interesting comparison. So I hope you enjoyed that. Let me bring you so that we're face on. That one. There we go. Gosh, it's dark in the background. I have shut the blind on one of the Veluxes, but even so, it is quite. Have a try with the watercolour paper. Yeah, do try putting it through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, because that makes a huge difference. It's really smooth and it stamps, so the sentiment on this looks really neat. Let me find a piece that I haven't run through. Have I got a smaller piece? That I have, that bigger piece I have. This I haven't. So this is rough on both sides. This is the smoother of the two sides. So let's see what it does. Now I didn't use the stamping mat for that one, so I won't use it for this one either. It's okay, but I do think it's absorbed more, it's left more ink. This is paler. This is dark. This is much darker than this. I don't know why I'm showing you in the camera. I'm showing in the camera, and of course you can't see it. Let's go to the big camera. So this is the one that's not gone through the embossing machine, so it's got that finish. For me, This, and I don't know if it shows on camera, but this is much darker than this, and this is the one I put through the embossing machine, and I think that makes a difference. Pauline is two-step stamping, then the blends, then the watercolor, which is, yeah, as I say, I think it's really interesting. Let's go back to the small camera. I think it's really interesting that, you know, there are 3 ways of doing it, and different people like different ways, and that's how it should be, frankly. You can see the difference, Audrey. Good, thank you. I was staggered when I did it. I don't even know how I picked up the tip. It's not my tip. It was something, I picked it up somewhere. The trouble is I spend quite a lot of time on YouTube watching, you know, over meals. I'll have YouTube on, picking tips up, and I honestly can't remember where I picked it up. I don't even think it was a Stamping Up video. I think it was someone doing general watercolouring, and it was a suggestion. So do try that, because I was a little disappointed when they brought out the Fluid 100 that it was as fluffy as it is, because I thought it was going to be smoother than the original watercolour paper. Anyway, I'm blithering again. Hi Liz, have you missed much? Yes, because I'm about to finish, Rachel. You can see the difference as well, Janice. Good. But yeah, give it a go. But Rachel, this will be ready. This will be up for replay pretty much, you know, within 5 minutes of me finishing. But it's just looking at the different ways of colouring using the delicate dahlias. So I'm doing a comparison between blends, two-step stamping, and then using just the solid stamp and watercolouring with it. So pushing the ink around. Anyway, have a super rest of your day, all of you. Some of you have only just started your day, so have a really good day. Those of us who are in UK/Europe, have a good late afternoon, early evening. I will be live again on Tuesday next week, 11 o'clock UK time. I will have Simple Stamping Saturday on Saturday, surprisingly. And yeah, I've got quite a lot of content. I've got quite a few blog hops coming up. I've had 2 already this week. I've got another one is it tomorrow or Saturday? And then I've got another one coming up next week. So lots to look at and lots of new products to have a look at. Now that we can actually show the inside of a catalogue, which is quite nice. So thank you all, and thank you. I will have a lovely weekend, Audrey. I mean, the fact that I'm going to my aunt's 90th birthday will be just very special. Lots of family, and we can see lots of people all at once at a glorious venue. Anyway, I shall put up my end screen. So thank you very much indeed, and I hope to see you again very soon.